Hi, everyone. Going live. How's everybody doing? Okay. All right. How's everyone's day going this Thursday, April 10th? Today I'm going to be talking about what we really believe. So the questions I have for you is, what do you really believe? I mean, we all have different beliefs. We are human beings. We all believe something. So I used to think that beliefs were just kind of things that were official, like you had a religious belief, or you had a political belief, or you believed in a certain deity, or you believed only people who looked a certain way or whatever. And those kinds of beliefs are real, but there's so much more underneath that we're not aware of. And because we're not aware of it, it oftentimes run the show and we think this is our reality. So this is what I mean. We may say something like, I believe in blank, but really, unconsciously or subconsciously, we believe the opposite. And so what we're saying and what's happening are two different things: how we're experiencing things, how we're perceiving things. And I would go as far as saying that what we really believe runs our life. Runs our life. So let me give you an analogy. I remember when I first started working with my coach, he asked me if I believed in peace. And I said, yes. I was emphatic. Of course I believe in peace. Yes, that's all I want is peace. And then he asked me, okay, what happens if someone cuts you off on the road, in traffic? Do you still believe in peace at that point? What do you do? How are you feeling? Besides the initial, like, oh, wow, what happens? Are you still at peace? Or do you start swearing? Do you call the person a name? Do you have all sorts of unpeaceful thoughts about what's going on? So in other words, what we think is true, or what we think we believe in, what we really believe in, often are the opposite. And I had to confess to him, yeah, if someone cuts me off, I swear, I call the person an idiot. I don't feel safe. I don't know what to do. I feel lost. My peace is gone. And sometimes it'll be gone for a while, maybe even the whole day. So he said, okay, so that's really good that you're being honest, because now we can look at what's really underneath all that and what you really believe. And when you realize what you really believe, it's so much easier to change it. So one way to figure out what you really believe is to put yourself in different scenarios. Do you really, believe in peace? Do you really think that people are generally good? Well, what do you think of that person and that person and that person? So, okay. We all walk around thinking that we believe certain things. I'm an honest person. I'm consistent with my treatment of others. I believe in a certain political party or religious belief. But underneath, as I said, are all the things we really believe, okay? And a great analogy is about the mind is an iceberg. So we've all learned that an iceberg is a huge piece of ice, and only a certain percentage, a small percentage of it is above the water. So everything above the water is your conscious mind, what you're conscious of. I believe in peace. I belong to this religion. I like this kind of person. I'm honest. Those are what's above the water, right? But 2/3, sometimes people say even 80% of the iceberg is under the water. It's submerged. underneath, it's subconscious. So in other words, so much of the iceberg that we don't see, just like our mind, is under the water. What do you really believe? What's really driving you? Okay. So and then question becomes, how do you find out what you really believe and how do you change it? So one way to figure out what you really believe is to just look around you. Who do you hang out with? How much money do you make? Where do you live? Who do you love and not love? How do you feel when someone says or does something? What are you buying? How upset do you get when something happens? These are going to give you more of a clue of what you really think versus what you say or you think consciously. Let me give you an example. Okay. So, a great way to not only understand what you really believe, but to change it because it's not working for you, is to go through experiences that are outside your comfort zone and watch and observe and see what comes up, what patterns come up. I'm going to give you a quick example. One of the things that I really struggled with was how much stress and anxiety that would come up when I needed to take a trip to a place I've never been before. So, not necessarily going on a plane, that kind of thing, but driving somewhere I'd never been before. I would get really anxious and stressed out. And I would, look up where it is and how long it takes to get there and what highways and all that stuff. And even then, I would still have a lot of anxiety, even with all of the modern technology we have, all the GPS stuff. In fact, one of the things that I would notice is that if I use the GPS, sometimes it would send me to the place I didn't want to go. It would like send me in the middle of nowhere and say that I arrived. And that caused huge amounts of anxiety for me. And as a result, I just kind of ignored it a lot of times and I just didn't go places. And so 5 years ago, I resolved within myself that I was going to do more of those trips. I was going to do open mics. For those who don't know, I do stand-up comedy, and one of the things I wanted to do more was open mics. And I was avoiding the open mics because I was driving places I'd never been before, especially at night. So it raised a lot of anxiety in me, and it was embarrassing, to tell you the truth. I was kind of embarrassed by this. And I was like, I got to get through this. So what I did was I picked a place I hadn't been before. I decided I'm going to make it easy on myself. I'm going to go there during the daytime. So at least I don't feel like I have the dark against me. I have daylight. It's easier to get around for me. And I also decided to ask a friend to come along with me. So it wasn't going to be the actual gig for that night. I was just going to go there maybe a couple days ahead of time, check it out, and then decide if I was going to go there at night. And I asked my friend Mary Beth to come with me. She was so generous to do that. And I told her, look, I have this thing about the GPS and not getting places that really stresses me out. And I want to break myself of that. Can you come with me and just be a support person for me? And she said, absolutely, I'll do that. She had time in her hands, so she came with me. So we got in the car. She sat next to me. I programmed the GPS to go where I wanted to go, and we were off. And here's what I want to say. While we were driving, we got to the point in the trip where there were like 3 different places we could go. It was a highway. So you had to make a decision relatively. You can just stop and wait. You had to make a decision pretty quickly. It wasn't clear to me what the GPS was telling me to do. And I would freeze. And so I'm at that point. I'm like, okay, this is the stuff that gets me stressed out. And she said, look, this is what it seems like the road you need to take, but just take it. And if you are wrong, the GPS will reprogram you. It'll reroute you, no problem. And you know what? You're not going to end up in Wyoming. And as soon as she said that, boom, I could feel it in my body. And this is what I want to say. The reason why that was so powerful for me was not that I had anything against Wyoming, beautiful state, but I realized my real fear was that I was going to be somehow catapulted or brought to a place that was so far away from where I knew that I would never get back, that I would be lost forever by myself. And I know that sounds a little weird, which is why it felt embarrassing, but that was a real subconscious fear that I held. And I avoided all these trips because I was so afraid to be lost and never to be able to find my way back. Now, I don't know exactly where that is. I don't know if something happened to me as a little kid where I got lost. Well, there were definitely times where I got lost as a little kid and was always found, but it stayed with me as something I should avoid for the rest of my life. And that's subconscious. But that's what was running the show up to this point, was you just avoid all those trips because you may never make it back. You may be lost forever. And that fear that was inside me was real, even though it wasn't logical. So subconscious beliefs are real things you believe. They may not be logical. And they're based on previous experiences, oftentimes way back in your childhood, where you had an intense fear or anger or rage or whatever it was that prevents you from moving forward in your life, and it keeps coming up over and over and over to be resolved. So this is what happened. She said that. I took the road she suggested. It was not the right road. And I got rerouted. We got on the right road and we made it to the place. And actually, the place was kind of seedy and in kind of a neighborhood that I did not feel good about. And I thought, I'm so glad I came here, because now I know I do not want to go to that gig for an open night, for an open mic. It didn't have good parking. It seemed like it was kind of deserted, didn't feel good to me. So that was even more information. So then once we made it there, I can't tell you how victorious I felt. I felt like, wow, what have I been depriving myself of because I had the subconscious fear that was running everything? So I ended up taking her to lunch. It was great. We had a great time. We were telling jokes. It was wonderful. But what needed to happen for all of that good stuff to happen is I had to go outside of my comfort zone. And that's the moral of the story. When you have a subconscious belief that's preventing you from doing what you need to do, one way to break through that is to just do it, even if you're afraid, and notice all the feelings. So I had trepidation and fear and panic. And then luckily she was there. So I created a scenario where I had support and I felt like I was taking baby steps. And it really showed me what I was really afraid of and how I made it back. And I built up evidence that I can not stay lost forever. What a metaphor, right? That I can find my way back from wherever. And guess what? That GPS that used to send me to weird places, it doesn't do that anymore. So to me, that's evidence that my nervous energy was so strong. My subconscious mind was so strong that I would literally create scenarios where my GPS would get me lost and I couldn't find my way back. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to say to you is a great way to break through subconscious beliefs is to do something outside your comfort zone, experience all of the emotions, watch the patterns, and be just observer mode. And on the other side of that, you're going to get a lot of freedom. Now, I also have tools that you can use to break through subconscious programming that are amazing and I use every day. We don't have time to discuss those, but if you're interested in how to break through the subconscious programming, aside from just going out of your comfort zone, we can talk about that. And that's what I would invite you to do, is to, join my free Facebook group, my Calm Mom Alliance group, and learn more about that. Just reach out to me on my website, and we can talk about how to use those tools. I'm going to be having an event soon, probably in May, around using those tools so that you can just knock out a lot of those limiting subconscious programming beliefs that are holding you back, so that you can keep going outside your comfort zone and break through to that freedom that you want. Because here's the deal. Being a professional mom can be really hard. It can suck, but it also can be one of the best adventures of your life, because you're forced to do all these things like go through your comfort zone excuse me, and life gets way better when you befriend and believe in yourself, have a supportive community, and you can laugh at what usually drives you crazy because you're worth it. So I hope you have a good day. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments section, whether you're watching this live or in recording. I will be checking those all over the week, and I hope you have an amazing remainder of your week, and I'll see you next week, next Thursday. Take care. Bye.